There is an old saying, born far from any temple or any philosopher's desk. People who have never read a single page of Lao Tzu say it without thinking, the way you'd mention the weather. When it's yours, not even pulling away will stop it. When it's not even chasing will bring it close. Most people hear that and think it's about luck. It isn't. This is the uncarved. Somewhere in you, there is a list. Not written down, carried. The things you worked for and never got. The things that arrived without you asking. The years you pushed against a door that simply would not open. And the door that opened on its own, on a day you weren't even trying. If you're honest about that list, something uncomfortable starts to surface. Effort and outcome were never as connected as you were taught to believe. We are raised on a simple equation. Work hard and you will receive. Want something enough, do the right things in the right order, and it becomes yours. It's not a lie, exactly, but it's not the whole truth either. And the part that gets left out is the part that actually matters. A farmer plants a field. He chooses the seed. He prepares the soil. He waters. He weeds. He does everything a good farmer is supposed to do. And none of that guarantees the harvest. The rain may not come, or it may come too hard, too long, and drown what he planted. A blight can move through overnight and take half the field while he sleeps. The workers he hired, people he chose, people he trusted, have their own hands, their own mornings, their own days when the work doesn't get done the way he needed it done. He did everything right, and the harvest is still not fully his to decide. This is not a story about giving up. The farmer who doesn't plant gets no harvest at all. That much is certain. But the farmer who plants still has to live inside a truth most people spend their whole life trying to avoid. The seed is yours. The ground is yours. The work is yours. The harvest belongs to something larger. In the 64th chapter of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu describes how anything real actually comes into being. A tree wide enough to fill a man's arms grew from something smaller than a fingernail. A tower 9 stories high began as a single mound of earth. A journey of 1,000 miles starts under 1 foot, in 1 step, that by itself goes almost nowhere. And then he says something that sounds, at first, like a warning against effort. Whoever forces it fails. Whoever grasps it loses it. That line is easy to misread. It is not telling you not to plant. It is telling you what happens when you try to drag the harvest out of the ground before it's time. When you mistake the seed for something that owes you an immediate return. The tree does not apologize for the years it spends being too small to notice. It does not rush its own growth to satisfy someone standing over it checking. It simply grows at the only pace growth has ever happened at. And the people who fail, Lao Tzu says, they don't usually fail at the beginning. They fail near the end. Right before the thing was about to become real, they grabbed it. They forced it. They couldn't tolerate one more season of not knowing. There's a story, older than most retellings of it, about a farmer who couldn't stand how slowly his rice was growing. Every day he walked the field, and every day it looked the same as the day before. So one afternoon, he did something that made sense to him in the moment. He went out and pulled every single stalk up just slightly. Just enough to make them look taller, row after row, all afternoon. He came home exhausted and told his family, proudly, that he had helped the crop grow faster. By morning, every plant he touched was dead. He hadn't sped up the growth. He had ended it. That story gets told as a joke about impatience. But sit with the mechanics of it for a moment, because that's where the real lesson is. The farmer didn't fail because he did nothing. He failed because he confused forcing with helping. He mistook his own urgency for the plant's timeline. And that confusion, mistaking what you want right now for what is actually ready right now, is the exact place where most people lose the thing they were trying hardest to secure. You can feel it in your own life if you're honest. The relationship you tried to force into being more than it was ready to be. The opportunity you pushed before the foundation underneath it could hold the weight. The conversation you forced to a resolution because you couldn't tolerate the discomfort of it staying open one more day. None of that was wrong to want, but wanting it now and it being ready now are two different things, and the gap between them is where the damage happens. Here is the harder part, because there is another side to this that is just as true, and the two sides don't cancel each other out. Some things arrive without you pulling on anything at all. No plan, no campaign, no years of forcing. They simply appear on an ordinary day, carrying a purpose you won't understand until much later. Sometimes years later. Sometimes not in this lifetime at all. And other things, things you want with everything you have, things you plant and water and tend with real discipline, get met with obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Not because you did it wrong. Sometimes simply because it was not yet the season. The frustrating, almost unbearable truth is that effort does not reliably predict which is which. You cannot always tell in the middle of it whether the obstacle in front of you is the world telling you not this, or the world telling you not yet. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who wrote his private notes to no one but himself, returned again and again to a single unglamorous idea. That everything happening was already woven into a pattern larger than the part of it he could see from where he stood. He wrote that whatever time something arrives, it is the right time, not late, not early. He wasn't writing that as comfort for people who'd given up. He was a man who ran an empire, who acted constantly, who made decisions that moved entire nations. He was not describing passivity. He was describing something much harder to hold. The discipline of doing everything that was his to do, and then trusting the part that was never his. Without resentment, without needing to understand it in advance. He called it providence. You might call it something else. The word matters less than what it's pointing at. That there is an order operating underneath the one you can perceive, and that the things which reach you, even the difficult ones, even the ones that cost you everything to receive, are not random insults thrown at a life that deserved better. They are part of something coherent, even when coherence is the last thing they look like from where you're standing. There's an old phrase, the kind that gets repeated so often it almost stops meaning anything, until the day it doesn't. Pray to God, but keep rowing toward shore. It sounds, on the surface, like a compromise. Half faith, half effort. But it isn't a compromise at all. It's a description of the only posture that actually makes sense once you've lived long enough to see both sides of this truth. You row, you plant, you choose your people, prepare your ground, do the work that is genuinely yours to do. And you do it without the guarantee that doing it will produce the outcome you're picturing. Because the rain is not yours. The blight is not yours. What your own workers decide to do with the trust you placed in them is not entirely yours either, even though you're the one who chose them. This is not an argument for doing less. It's an argument for doing your part fully and then releasing your grip on the part that was never in your hands to begin with. If you've lived long enough, you already have your own version of this. A door that wouldn't open no matter what you tried, and years later, you understood it was protecting you from something you couldn't have survived yet. A door that opened the moment you stopped pushing on it, as if it had been waiting for your hand to finally let go of the handle. Something you fought for with everything you had that never came, and something you never asked for that arrived anyway and turned out to be exactly what you didn't know you needed. Neither of those is proof that effort doesn't matter. Both of them are proof that effort was never the whole equation. This is what it comes down to. Not a technique, not a formula for knowing in advance which season you're standing in. Just a way of carrying both halves of the same truth at once. Plant fully, choose carefully, work like the harvest depends on you, because in part it does. And when the field doesn't yield what you were picturing, When the door stays shut, no matter how long you push, resist the urge to pull the stalks up just to feel like something is happening. Some delays are not punishment. They are protection for a version of you that isn't ready yet to hold what's coming. And some things will reach you without warning, without a plan, without you having done anything at all to deserve the timing, carrying a purpose that won't be obvious until you're far enough away to see the whole field at once. What is yours will find its way to you, not because you stop trying, because trying was never the only thing deciding the outcome. There is a kind of peace that has nothing to do with knowing how things will turn out. It comes from something quieter, from doing your part as completely as you can, and then releasing your hands from the part that was never yours. The rain will do what the rain does. The season will turn when the season turns, not when you decide you're done waiting. And somewhere in that surrender, not resignation, surrender, there is room to plant again, to keep showing up at the field without needing to control what the sky decides to do. When it's yours, nothing will keep it from you. When it's not, nothing you do will make it stay. That is not an excuse to stop planting. It is the only ground solid enough to plant on without breaking. Until next time, move slowly. That is enough.